Hello, my name is Kyle Jarris. I'm the Education Director here at the Academy of Model Aeronautics, and welcome to another afternoon session of AMA Junior Camp. We are so excited to have you guys joining us again, and I have a feeling you guys are going to love this conversation. Our guest today is someone who's amazing, has had such a plethora of experiences. That means a lot. They've had lots of different things that they've done in their life and are still doing amazing things. So let's start with what I think is really cool, a private pilot. So this person can jump into a plane and go into the sky and have a great time. Let's talk about an airport administrator. What that means is they run an airport, and not just like a small grass strip kind of an airport. This individual ran an airport just outside of Boston proper. So we're talking a pretty decent sized airport here. I'm looking forward to hearing about that. But not only that, an educator, and in the classroom educator even, someone who's got that experience and has grown and learned lots of different things. I'll also say started as with a fine arts background. You know, how does that impact someone's life and how does that go into what they do? And then last but not least, an FAA administrator, someone who worked with the Federal Aviation Administration and accomplished some amazing things there as well. So without further ado, welcome Shelia Bauer. It's so great to see you.
Hey, Kyle. Wow, you could be my personal press agent.
Give me a call after this. We'll work something out. It'll be great.
Who is that person he's talking about? But thank you for having me, and hi, everybody out there. I hope everybody had a wonderful morning and had a lot of fun. And I hope some people will ask some questions too of me. So that's great. I'm so pleased to be here and proud that you asked me to come.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. You know, it's really our pleasure. And I'll start out, I kind of gave a little bit of an introduction, but in so many ways, I feel like I didn't even touch on some of the things that you've had a hand in. So introduce yourself for us, say hello, and give us a little bit of your background.
Oh, well, I don't know where to start. I think the most important thing I can tell you is that I am a wife, I am married, and I am a mother, and I have children and I have grandchildren. And so that's the most important thing about me. I'm a wife, a mother, and a grandmom. And I've had many, many different types of jobs. And my career has never been just from here to here to here. And that when I was maybe 10 years old, I said, for the rest of my life, I want to be this. Although I think when I was 8 or 9, I thought when I grew up, I was going to be a nurse. When I was 10, I thought I was going to be, maybe I was going to be a school teacher. Every time I started to think about it, I shifted a little bit. But I think it was an ancient philosopher, Aristotle, that said, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And that kind of means, for example, if you looked at the components of a model airplane and you looked at the engine and you just look at all the little pieces, it would have no value. But if you combined them all into a model airplane, then all of a sudden it became a thing that worked. And so that's what happened to me. I had all these little parts, these little bits and pieces along the way, and it formed me to all the things that I was able to do throughout my career. And I don't know, I think my earliest remembrance of, what could be fun to do is I had an uncle, because I know that you're in camp now putting together little things and doing models and doing things that fly, because the Academy of Model Aeronautics does all of that. But my uncle, he built model airplanes when he was young, and he had a little a shed in the back of his house, and we had all these tools and wonderful things. And he invited me in, and he taught me how to solder things. I don't know if you know what that means. It means using a little blowtorch and using a little flux on metal and using metal, and it welds pieces of things together. That was very cool. I was 8 years old, and he trusted me enough to teach me that, and it was pretty exciting for me. And from that experience said, maybe I could learn things that most of my friends didn't do, the girls that I hung out with didn't do, but that's okay. And I basically went on to different things because I was lucky. I had a dad that was in the aviation business. He owned and operated an FBO. Do you know what an FBO is, Kyle?
So FBO, I should know this.
Oh, you want to
You
guess?
tell me though. Okay, field something office.
No, it's a good guess though. FBO, which is a name now that people still call little aviation companies across the country at larger airports, is the name FBO is comes back from the barnstorming days. F is fixed, B is based, and O is operator, fixed based operator. And real quick, way back in the day, right after the Wright brothers started to fly, before my time, people would fly and they would take off from a grass strip. But there weren't a lot of airports in those days, so they would have a truck that would kind of follow around where they were flying. They didn't go too fast, and they would fly around, and then the truck would go to a field somewhere where it was open, and that's where those pilots could land. But usually, when they landed, they would break a wheel or something. So those guys would come over with the truck, they'd fix it up, and then the plane would take off, and then the people in the trucks would go around. Those were the maintenance men and women. But so eventually there was one field that was better than another because it was pretty flat. And people would generally keep on going back to that field to land and take off. And people that would give them the services started a business. And that's where the fixed based operation was. And that's how airports kind of began. So my dad had a fixed base operation at an airport. And he started a company right after the war, and I grew up kind of visiting him because he worked so much. He worked day and night to try to make the business work, and so that's where I got my background in aviation.
Well, that's really amazing. And so, you've had all these experiences. You said, really at age 8, you're handed a torch and some lead solder and some electronics or something to put together. It's a pretty amazing opportunity. For the 8-year-olds out there, get parental permission before you play with torches,
Yes.
please.
Yeah.
But honestly, what a great experience, and it's by having those kinds of experiences, in all of life that we can celebrate some success and really enjoy that. So awesome.
But, Kyle, I will tell you my earliest experience in flying was that my dad had a Bamboo bomber, which is, I think, CU-78. That was the name of the airplane, but it was a World War II airplane. When I was really little, my dad would every now and then take my sisters, who were older than I, and my mom, and we'd fly somewhere. But my sisters, who were like, 10 years older than I, they would barf in the airplane, and they'd be up front with my father, and my father would say, "Take them back in the back seat and bring the little one up." And so they would hand me over, and I would sit in the front, and my feet wouldn't even reach the rudders. I was really cool, and I was loving it. So I don't really remember the earliest time that I was actually holding a yoke of an airplane, but I just felt it, and I knew it. It was very cool. And I could look down and see the ground and see little tiny things. And it was just
it's such a magical experience.
It was. I thought everybody, all my friends had that experience, but I didn't know that they didn't. So
yeah, well, and how do you know, right? That's what you're born with. You know it. Your father was in aviation, and my grandfather was a private pilot, and so I thought flying with him was normal. Like, doesn't everyone hop into a plane? It's an incredible opportunity.
Isn't everybody's grandpa fly? No. Oh, grandma.
Or grandma, yeah. My grandmother flew as well. We've got some stories, but I won't share yet. So, well, it sounds like your uncle was definitely an inspiration. Your father, of course, and the business he built was an inspiration. What were some of your other heroes growing up? Who were the mentors that really came alongside of you and helped you grow and develop and be equipped, quite frankly, to say, I'm interested in that and I'm going to try it?
I like to say that, I started to take flying lessons when I was 14. And so when I was ready to solo, and that means flying by yourself, you have to be 16 to go by yourself. And my flight instructor told me one day, I was flying with him and going up and down, touch and goes around the traffic pattern at the airport in Beverly, Massachusetts. And he did say to me, okay, you're ready to go by yourself. And I thought, oh no, I'm not ready to go by myself. But he said, just land. The next time you land, I'll pull over to the side of the runway and I will get out and you'll go by yourself. So that was very scary to me. I will tell all the boys and girls out there that when there's a person that's an adult that teaches you something and they feel confident in your abilities to do something, you really need to listen to them and feel that confidence. You'll get that. Do it. And if they think that you're confident in what you can do and your abilities, do it and try it. Because he did get out of the airplane. I flew and I went up into the traffic pattern and I came around. And I thought, oh my gosh, I was so busy doing what I learned to do that I didn't think of what I was doing. And then I thought, okay, I'm done. And he waved me on and he said, go again from the side of the runway. And so I went the second time. The second time I was like, oh, this is pretty good. I think I can do this.
It started to sink in a little bit.
Oh my God, I'm flying by myself. This is fantastic. I love it. And I went up and I came down and I thought I was really fantastic. I will say that back in the day, after I got out of the plane and I went in and people in the administration building had known because they saw my flight instructor at the side of the runway and congratulated me. I went into the parking lot. Somebody was driving me home and somebody saw me and said, hey, congratulations. I hear you're a solo pilot today. So when you grow up, are you going to be a stewardess? And I thought, they didn't call them flight attendants back in the day. They called them stewardess. And I thought, well, okay, I guess maybe that's the thing about girls not being able to be pilots. So I want to tell the girls out there, the young people, boys and girls, young and old, you can do anything that you want to do. You don't be pigeonholed in a box so that somebody can tell you can't do it. And when you say to me who was another mentor, there was this woman who had been flying since she was like 16, and she was older than I, and her name was Ann Bridge Bador. And she had flown well before the time that a lot of women are flying, and she got her license and she joined the 99 and she used to fly in these, they called them powder puff derbies. They don't call that now. They call them air races now, like the guys going to an air race, powder puff derbies. But there were real air races and she won a lot of races. And I think there might be a picture for that to show. Yes, there's Anne, the tall one, with her little girl. And she was one of the people that I so admired. And she was really influential in my life, very pivotal. Throughout my life, Anne is still alive. And she became a test pilot for MIT Draper Labs. There she is on the left. She was also a winner of the Catherine Wright Trophy a few years back there. I'm on one side of Anne and she's the other person. And she was instrumental because she told me, listen, women can do anything. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And the guy on the other side, it's on my right side of the screen, that's my husband. And his name is Dr. Shelia Bauer. He's been a big mentor to me in that, and my hero, because no matter what I ever did, he was right there beside me and behind me saying, yes, you could do it. He was never not in an audience for where I did a presentation. He was never not in a support way of flying kids at an ACE camp that he didn't show up and say, I'll be there and I'll fly the kids. He is aviation extraordinaire. He actually sits on the education committee of Aero Club of New England and gives away lots of scholarships. And that's like something I'd like to tell you right now. That's a little sidebar. If people, when you get a little older, if parents are listening, there's lots of scholarship funding out there, and parents need to dig in. We're looking for kids to give money to so they can go into fields of aviation. Whether you're pilots, whether you're maintenance people, whether you're going to run an airport, whether you're going to teach flying, whether you're going to work for FAA and be in air traffic control. There's so many careers out there that Kyle is going to probably mute me and say enough already. I could go on and on. But Jeff is in charge of Aero Club of New England scholarships and also Cape Area Pilots Association scholarships. It's my hero. He doesn't stop. So thank you for putting him up there.
Yeah, of course. Well, it's such a great life lesson to learn as early as possible. Surround yourself with the people that have your back, that want the best things for you, that are going to support you and inspire you even and help you grow. That doesn't mean they're perfect people. None of us are, but if you can find those people that really make you a better person, we all benefit by that. So
You
it's pretty
know,
amazing.
you're right. At every stage in your life, and I think if you were to say that, and I asked you the same question, our pictures were reversed, and I was asking you, I would think that you could tell me that at every level and age of life, there was one person that was like that one person for you. And then you went on to something else, and then there was another person. There isn't just one person, there are a lot of people. I think there's a picture maybe Matt could bring up. You asked me who a hero was, not a mentor, but a hero, or somebody I looked up to, and it was Leonardo da Vinci. And yeah, that guy was incredible. I
And
mean,
great taste in hats too.
yes, and he didn't have to shave. I mean, it was just an amazing guy. And not only was he an artist, because, I started out thinking, well, I can't do anything for the career in aviation because maybe girls aren't look favorably upon, getting a job as a pilot. And back in the day in the airlines, they didn't really hire females. But so I went into art, and I went to Massachusetts College of Art and Design. And um, Leonardo da Vinci wasn't just the guy who painted the Mona Lisa. He developed these incredible designs, and I think the thing on the right that he developed was for the water to pump water. It was the first like water pump. He, I think that the thing you're looking on the left is a bridge. I think that was his designs to make a bridge. I can't see it from this point, but he developed.
Maybe the catapult there on the side.
Yeah, a design for a
Yeah,
helicopter.
the spirals and the.
Oh my gosh, he never stopped designing and thinking. Yes, and yes, and there are the little components of an engine. I mean, this is way back in the 1400s, where they must have thought he was kind of crazy, but he never stopped using his brain to come up with new ideas. He came up with some incredible designs that we can't even. There's his designs for real bridges. I can see it now. So he was my hero. He also learned about drawing through learning the body and understanding what was inside the body. But he looked at things in a different way. And I think it's a good thing to remember, to look at things in an unusual way. He actually wrote backwards. People couldn't understand a lot of things, thought he was writing in code, but he learned to write backwards. And so I learned to think out of the box a little bit by going to Mass College of Art and Design. And because I thought I was going to be a famous artist one day, I used those skills that I learned at an art college to think differently and to be able to not let the common way that everybody thinks get in my way of thinking for the things I wanted to do. I'll give you an example. The very first day at my art college, Massachusetts College of Art and Design, the professor said, I'm giving everybody one piece of oak tag paper. If you know what oak tag is, it's kind of a heavier paper, but not paper that you would find inside a shirt package. You take it out, it's kind of heavy cardboard. And he gave everybody a piece of paper and a scissors. Everybody got a pair of scissors and a ruler. And he said, by the end of this class, after 45 minutes, I want everybody to make a design and a three-dimensional structure out of that piece of paper. No tape, no glue, nothing. And I want you to make a design that you can put on the floor, and it has to hold your weight for at least 3 seconds and not collapse. And I thought to myself, this man is crazy, but I'm going to do it. And it was pass or fail. There were 3 of us out of the entire class that could do it. And it was because I thought about it. And I just said, wow, how can I do this? And I'll give you a tip on how I did it. When I was really little,
That helped. That helped. You weren't probably on the football team at that time necessarily.
No, no, no. I wasn't tiny when I was in college, but when I was little, and I would take the toilet paper rolls off of the tube, I
Uh-huh.
used to try to smash them by standing on them when it was a roll, and I could never smash it. So I actually rolled a piece of that paper and I made a little box and I put it in and it opened up like that and I stepped on it and it didn't collapse right away.
There you go.
But you never know if you just don't let it get in your way of saying you can't do something. Think out
Well,
of
it's
the
just like Leonardo, finding things that interest you, that you're curious about, and then that you then make the effort to pursue it, to learn about it, to do your own research, to work with your hands, work with whatever the thing is, learn to write backwards, and study anatomy, whatever it is. Like Leonardo, cleared a really interesting path, and so can we.
Yep. I always said ask questions, and this is something that I took with me when I ran and operated the FBO after I stopped teaching and I went back into aviation. Um, I said, I don't really know how to run a company, but I want to learn how to do that. So I started at the
Mhm.
very bottom. I didn't come in as being the president or the king, but I started at the very bottom. But I said, if every day I can learn one thing,
Mhm.
just one thing, and that was my goal, then I could build on that. And it didn't have to be a big thing. It had to be one new thing, and I did it by asking somebody a question. I don't know who
Yeah.
it would be, but I would learn. I learned what a Zeus screw was and the difference between that and a different kind of a nut and bolt because I spent a lot of time in the parts department. Or I learned about Jet A fuel because I followed the gas guys around and I actually did fuel aircraft for a little bit. I mean, there wasn't anything that I didn't do, but I asked a question every single day. I knew how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with bacon in it. It's really good. I
There
asked.
you go. If you take anything away from today's conversation, PB and J, and throw some bacon on too, that's that will blow your mind there. So
Sure, sure.
definitely try that out. Well, it's interesting too that you went from a classroom teacher, which we haven't hardly talked about at all, but once again, it was a matter, I have to imagine, of you interacting with the students, asking them what they thought, hearing from them, because that made such a big impact on you. And then, taking that from a leadership role as the educator, but also to do it collaboratively, that makes such a huge impact.
It did. I had fun teaching. I probably was an unusual kind of a teacher because I didn't do what the normal teacher of the back in the day did. We had tables and chairs, the desks. I never wanted my room to be rows. I would make my room different. I would make them
Yeah.
circles of groups, and I would do every like 3 days change the groups. And so I always thought that maybe I was learning more from the students than they were learning from me. But I think that's what we do. Whoever we're
Mhm.
with, as an adult, you can learn great stuff from the people around you. Doesn't matter if they're old or young. I used that to in my back pocket to be with kids because young people really they're fun. People they
Yeah.
inspire me. I learn more from people that are a whole lot younger than I than they learn from me.
Oh yeah, I think that that's a great thing to walk away from too. And don't let your age be the barrier from teaching, someone else anything. Your life experiences and the things someone else hasn't had and someone else doesn't. So be willing to share that. That's very important.
Everybody has something
Um,
to give.
I've got a quick question for you, Sheila. So you mentioned always learning something at the FBO, and as you went into that role, learning, starting at the bottom, figuring out a little bit of every job, I'm sure, and
Yep.
then advancing. And the way I look at it a lot of times is realizing the more I learn, the more I know I don't know what everyone else knows, and that's okay. Like you can still learn more things and grow and advance. And I'm sure that was your situation there. But what was the most interesting thing about running that FBO? Once you got into that lead role, like what was it that maybe surprised you the most, or that was the most impactful?
I think that was the one. Well, there were many things, but the one thing that I learned that was that there was never 2 days alike. Every day was different. Every day I showed up, there was something different there. Even to the weather. I mean, if it was a day that a storm was coming, I had to react in a different way of how I was going to service our customers and get the aircraft either tied down properly or brought into the hangar, or even walking through the maintenance facility and seeing what the guys were doing. We had one female maintenance person, and it was like, what is she doing, and how is she doing it? Is she doing it okay? Because are they being friendly to her? Are they embracing her? There were things that I learned that were pretty, like, no 2 days were alike. I also thought, which was pretty incredible, is you never know who's going to walk through the door. I
Mhm.
think that's the truth within any kind of a company. When you're growing up, you think but you don't know. I got to meet some very interesting people. Billy Joel came. Do you know who Billy Joel is?
Yeah, Billy Joel.
He's a singer, right?
Uh-huh.
He came in with his jet one time and walked in the door and said, "Can I get some Jet A fuel?" And I was like, "Wow, that's something
Why,
to do."
yes, you can if I can get a signature.
Yeah, exactly. Did that. And then another time we had the Goodyear blimp come to our FBO and tie down. That means stay for
Mhm.
overnight, and they stayed for about a week. And I learned about the blimp, the dirigible, and actually they knew that I was a pilot, and they said to me one day before they were going out for the day, "Would you like to fly the blimp?" And I said, I don't know how to fly blimp. They said, "Well, come on in." And and so I got to take my two daughters with me. They were little, Jamie and Stephanie. And I called and got them a ride over to the airport because they were with me. And they got in the back and they said, "Oh my God, Mommy's flying." So that was very cool. Um, yeah,
That's amazing.
I think that I would have to say that learning to run a business and be at an airport was very unusual. And the best part, what I missed the most, was seeing airplanes take off and land. That was right outside my office window. I could sit there and just do my work and look up and say, "Oh, pinch me, look where I am. I can
Yeah.
watch." Anybody
Yeah,
can
and all
do
the varied aircraft, the different pilots you meet, the different individuals that are out operating them. It's really neat.
that.
I've got a question that came in from Joe Vermillion, and it says mean, but he's not that mean. He's a pretty decent guy. But he asks, "What's your favorite aircraft to pilot?"
Oh, because I would have to say it's your first love. Your
Mhm.
first love. That was the Aranca Champ. That was the most fun. And I think for me, I was young, but it took skill to get the tail down, and if it was windy out, or
Mhm.
I enjoyed being in that airplane. It for me, you didn't have to busy yourself with a lot of equipment because it didn't have a lot of equipment. It didn't even have a
No
headset radio,
radio either, was it?
no radio, so I didn't have to feel funny about talking to somebody. Like nowadays that the headsets, but there was no handheld. There was nothing. You just flew the airplane, and then that, to me, that was more like the airplane was actually part of me. I
Yeah.
felt part of my body. It was a beautiful experience. We have an airplane, which is a Warrior, and it has a lot of brand new equipment in it. And I grew up with that airplane too. And there was steam gauge equipment in that. I think maybe Mean Joe would probably know that if he's a pilot. Now it's all glass cockpit on that airplane.
Yeah.
So I think changing with the times is hard, and
Mhm.
learning new equipment is hard. My husband's the expert now on that. So I hope I answered that for you, Mean Joe.
I think so. There's at our local EAA chapter 226 here in Anderson, Indiana. There's a gentleman that has a Champ there, and it's a beautiful airframe. It's really a neat aircraft to look at, and I think he's got a handheld radio that he carries with him now as he flies. But pretty neat
Yeah,
stuff.
it's a wonderful experience. I do say that when my dad flew the Bamboo Bomber, it was sold many years ago, and I was able to bring partners together and bring that airplane back years later. It was redone and to go into Oshkosh and to
Oh
uh,
wow!
be on display, and it's now in Massachusetts. But I got to fly that as an adult.
Oh, that's
That,
so cool.
yeah, I got a half-hour flight to actually fly it as a
What an
pilot.
experience that would have been.
As an adult, that was pretty cool. I think I might have sent some pictures of uh, myself in front of that airplane to Matt, but that was a pretty good experience.
Definitely. Well, while Matt looks for those photos to share, so you went from running the FBO, and then how did you get connected with the FAA? I'm sure you were familiar with the FAA already, but how did you make that leap into working for the organization?
Yeah, I did sell my company because I had a partner in the company, and it was a situation. He passed away, and I decided it was time for me to do something else. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do and go to FAA. And I have to tell you, I think I mentioned this to you, Kyle. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm still figuring it out. But I was volunteering, running a scholarship fund organization with the Aero Club, and Ann Bridge-Bador, who was a mentor of mine, asked me if I would help run the scholarship auction to raise funds for youngsters. And who walked in but the regional administrator from FAA, Arlene Feldman. And I said to Ann, I said, "Oh, you know what? Could you introduce me to that woman? I know she has something to do with the FAA, and I think I would like to ask her." I knew the FAA guys used to come to our airport and do base inspections, and I knew there was a tower at our airport, and I knew there were air traffic controllers up there. So I knew the FAA had lots of jobs, but I just didn't know where I might have fit into that. So I wanted just to have a conversation with her. And so Anne said, "Sure, I'll introduce you to her. I know her," at the end of the evening. And she did. And the regional administrator said, "Here's my card. Come in." I think she said, "I know that you ran an airport, an FBO. Do you have any background in education?" And I said, "Oh, yeah,
Yes, I do.
I know you're a pilot, but all right, here's my card. Come in, and I would like to talk with you." And I came in. I had no idea what you were going to talk about. And she said, "We're hiring aviation education program managers in each region. Would you be interested in applying for the job?" Doesn't mean you get the job. You work for a federal agency. You have to fill out lots and lots of forms and say lots and lots of things that you used to do and how you qualify for this. And it goes into a pool. And then if you're lucky, a lot of other people get in the numbers, and you go in and they interview you. And if you're lucky, you get selected. And I did. I was so surprised. And I looked at the job description of this job, and I said, "I can never do that. No one can do all of that. I can't do that." So again, I didn't know if I had the confidence, but the men in my life did. My father and my husband said, "Oh,
You got this.
you got that." And I did it. And the very first year that I did it, somebody told me, "We're going to do ACE camps, aviation career education camps for young kids in the regions." I was a regional person. I had myself, and there were 9 other regional people, and we all had to run an ACE camp. And I had never gone to camp as a kid. I never went to camp. So how do I know how to run a camp? And somebody said, "Well, it's too bad, because if you could see one, do one, then you can teach one, but not you're at it." So I got some
So you
help.
did.
Yes, I did. And I actually got an award that year for Innovator of the Year. You see, be like be like Leonardo and think out of the box. And we
Yeah.
did. I got lots of wonderful people to volunteer every hour. I'm sure it's like the AMA's junior camps. Every hour you fill the time with somebody wonderful and somebody who can show the youngsters how to do something and some kind of a great experience.
It,
And
it all comes down to having amazing volunteers, doesn't it?
yeah,
And if you can bring all that wealth of different people into something, and all working towards that same goal, it's an
wasn't
amazing
me.
opportunity.
It was all these fabulous people and finding partners. And it turns out that working for FAA, I wasn't such a big deal, but the people around me were wonderful, and I had a sixth sense for the best best out there. I was like, oh my God, the military was wonderful. They would come in and we did actually eventually did overnight camps too. And they would come in and volunteer to fly the kids in military aircraft. And
Oh, wow.
the 99s came in and would fly with the kids and small general aviation aircraft. And FAA opened its towers and we would go in and have all kinds of tours. And then we would have people like from the AMA. It really would come in and build things with the kids. I mean, it was just the best.
It's just so many different ways to, display aviation in all of its different aspects, whether it be tower work, working in the maintenance field, working in the safety side, working on the pilot side, um, it's just, there's so much to get into. And then of course we look at model aviation from our perspective and think, there's so much drone stuff. There's so much unmanned aviation that happens now and all the associated pieces that go with that too. So it's really neat. Now, Ace Camp's still a thing, right?
Yeah, still a thing. FAA is still doing it. I think that this past 2 years has been a little bit tricky because of COVID. But I think that, yes, it's still a thing. And you have to look at the FAA's website because it's in partnership. The FAA doesn't run them alone. We never did. We were in partner with organizations out there. And so if dads and moms want to look and see where they are, it's the www.faa.gov/education. I know that I put a little.
You've got that one memorized, right?
It's been a long time, but I think you could find out a lot of things where there are things offered for young people to do things. We'll put a pitch in this for you, the AMA.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something within the camps and teacher workshops too, where we would meld teaching math and how math is so important in STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, math, and getting kids hooked on math and modeling and building on engines and doing that, flying using models is all math. And we would do things on pylons and how they would come.
Yep.
And it was such a tricky way to get kids to love.
Yeah, Gordon would always reference kind of that, tricking kids into having fun and learning the math and aviation. It's a great way to do it. If you're having fun and learning at the same time, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, they didn't know they were really learning math and science, actually, geometry too. Algebra, all of it. But we tricked them into learning and loving it. So, yeah.
Well, and one of the questions I had written down to ask you was, how we keep getting kids into aviation, and the camp's a great one, Ace Camp. AOPA does some great stuff. EAA does great stuff, and of course the AMA. We've got lots of resources out there. There are so many entities and organizations who truly care about inspiring aviation and the growth of this industry.
Yeah, there are, because it's a good time now. I think parents need to know, if there are parents out there, need to know that, under this here, there's a lot of gray, and there's a graying of the workforce. I'm retired from FAA, but there are a lot of people retiring from the airlines. Everybody is at that age now that, they may be going on to retirement age, and we definitely need a workforce that's ready. And it's a new workforce. When I was growing up, we had models, but we didn't have drones. I mean, the first time I went into an air show, and it was, oh, look at these airplanes. That I never thought that you could have drones that could do so much things that we can't even think about that they do for us. And so we need pilots for drones, and we need engineers. We need aerospace engineers to build new aircraft, and we need pilots to fly the airlines. That's a definite, and maintenance people to fix aircraft and make composite materials that would be new types of aircraft that we're developing.
Yeah. If there's parents listening, there are so many available opportunities, and it doesn't even have to involve college. Like, you can go straight out of high school and do amazing things in the aviation industry, and in some ways that could even be a better course, and that's totally great and fine. There are those opportunities out there. There is a question I wanted to bring up. We've got a great question that came in from Chai D. They asked, my fourth grader would like to know if you can share with us your scariest or your most dangerous flight, which probably are the same, but maybe that's two different flights.
I don't know if I had anything really scary. Oh, well, something was kind of scary to me um, because you have to learn. You always have to learn, and you should never let an aircraft get ahead of you. So it's always learning, and you have to be good. And my husband and I took a trip in our Warrior to go to South Carolina. We flew there in our little airplane. It was very cool. And we watched the weather, and we were going to fly home, and we weren't instrument pilot rated. And what that means is you take training to fly just looking at your instruments inside the cockpit. You don't look out the window. And if you don't need to have it, but you should have it if you ever fly and think that the weather is going to come down. You're going to take a chance in flying in a cloud. And you can't fly in a cloud if you're
Can't
not
see anything. Yeah.
You can't see out. Although clouds are pretty, when I was little, I used to think I could roll down the window and touch it. It would be like cotton. It's not. It's like flying in a Coke bottle like that. So we took off to fly home, and we checked the weather. We were very careful to check the weather. And we saw clouds, and we were talking to people, and they said, yes, up ahead it's clear, but there's some spotted clouds coming out of South Carolina. And pretty soon the clouds below us were starting to gather closer and closer, and all of a sudden there's no holes, and we're flying over clouds. And I looked at my husband, and he looked at me, and it looked like we were just flying, and there was just a huge, huge pillow. There was no ground. It was just clouds. And that was so scary for me. And we called up ahead, and they said, oh, by the time you get to Virginia, and we certainly had enough fuel to go from South Carolina to Virginia, it will be clear. It will be clear. That was a foolish thing for us not to have looked at everything very carefully and looked at the weather. And we both looked at each other and said, that's it. That's never going to happen to us.
Yeah, time to get our instrument ratings, right?
As soon as we got home, we did the training and we got our instrument ratings. And that was probably this, I had all these visions like, oh no, what's going to happen? How am I going to get down? But having your instrument rating is very important. Even if you never fly in instrument conditions, because you just never.
You never know, right? Yeah, excellent. So you mentioned a couple of times an organization called the 99s. I'd like to hear a little bit more about that.
Okay, so I have a pin here. It's a 99s. Yeah, that's a 99s pin. And I'm a 99. I'm not as active as I should be, or that I will be, because I'm doing lots of different things, but I've always been a 99 for a lot of years. The 99s, it's called the 99s. Do you have an idea, Kyle, why it's called the 99s?
99 of something, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Back in the day when there weren't a lot of female pilots, Amelia Earhart and a lot of others across the country said, you know what, we're ladies, we fly, we should get together and have a meeting. And guess how many women showed up?
Was it 99?
Yes.
There it is.
And Amelia Earhart was the first president. And they decided that as a group of female pilots, that they could help one another by being together.
Supportive, yeah.
Being supportive. And today, the 99s International is just that. And if there's any young girls that are interested in joining, you don't have to be a pilot, but you could be on your way. You could be 66, I think 66 and a half. And there's lots of scholarship money out there with the 99s that we want to help young women along the way. And it's a good way to hear how experiences from one woman to another and how they handle things. It's a very good organization. There are other women organizations that are just not for pilots. That's a female pilot organization, which is the Women in Aviation International. And that's all different kinds of careers. Now, you don't have to just be a woman to be a member. You can be a member, but the initial reasoning, rationale to have that kind of organization is that women should help other women achieve. And I think it was Madeleine Albright. Some of you may know who she was, who said that women should help other women. She said, her quote was, "There's a place in hell for women who don't help other women along the way." So you got to do it. If you're a woman, you got to do it. But,
Definitely. Well, what are some other ways that we can continue to inspire women in aviation?
and how we could get them into aviation. I
Mhm.
think just by doing what you're doing and having the camps you're doing, the ACE camps, you need to look at, there's so many wonderful organizations out there. If you're a teacher, there are programs that you can get curriculum for the classroom. Um, and that encourage young girls and boys to
Mhm.
go into aviation as a career, but at an early age. I think we make a mistake. We try to capture them when they're in high school. It's too late. You know,
Mhm.
you got to at least know it's there. I didn't
Yeah.
think I was going to go into that career when I was in high school, but I had already soloed. But I knew about it.
Mhm.
But as youngsters, you should know. And so I know that the National Aviation Hall of Fame just got a grant and big partnership with PBS and
Mhm.
developed curriculum for third and fourth graders across the country. And so if teachers are interested in how do I get that curriculum, they can look on the National Aviation Hall of Fame's website. There's
Yeah.
another website out there that is, and I'm throwing a lot of websites. The web is wonderful. You can Google it. But the D. Howard Aviation Education, the D. Howard Aviation Education Foundation website, if you go onto their website and .org and click on to the menu where it says resources, there's a drop down menu, and it's like everybody out there that has
So
that.
many things out there. Yeah.
AMA is like at the top. You click on and it goes right into your website. You click on other websites and it's like, oh, this is where I can get scholarships. Oh, this
Mhm.
is who's doing this. Oh, who's doing that in aviation and aerospace education and STEM. It's a plethora of resources. There are a lot of them out there. You just
So,
don't get frustrated. Just we all know one another. It's kind of a small clan of people that can send you to the next person and to the next person.
mhm. Yeah,
Everybody,
it's definitely a community of people that are interested in aviation, and
yeah.
we all want to help everybody out. So, education at modelaircraft.org. You can reach out here. Of course, we've got curriculum and projects, but if what we have isn't going to serve you or your audience perfectly, there's someone who will, and that we're all excited to share and offer those suggestions back and forth. So please, reach out.
Yeah.
Well, what other kinds of organizations, are you working on right now? I know you're a member of some boards, Sheila.
Um,
You're a member of different organizations. I hear that you might have just become an AMA member as well.
oh,
So,
I did join. Listen, I've always been interested in this. Not that I haven't been very active. I have been,
oh yeah.
but I never thought, well, gee, maybe if I'm a member, I'll get more information about it all the time because you'll directly send me things. But I was director of education for the Massachusetts Air and Space Museum, and have stepped down over a period of time. But they are now looking to build a new location, and they're doing activities for youngsters. And I already contacted them because I'm on their scholarship committee. I'm an advisor to the museum, and said, "This is great stuff. You have to have the AMA participate." So, yeah,
Happy to do so.
I'm happy about that. I think that what I would like to do is next year encourage them to do an ACE camp and have part of the curriculum embedded in with the AMA. So there's a pitch for you, but I think it's great for the kids around the Cape Cod area because that's Cape Cod, Massachusetts, because that's where that their location is. But
Nice.
so involved in that, and of course, I just mentioned the D. Howard the International Aviation Education Foundation.org, but that that's a great place for teachers to kind of belly up with other teachers. There's a blog there. Teachers can start talking to each other across the country, besides finding resources for families for young people. So
Yeah.
I'm
We're all so excited to help.
yeah,
That's really what I've seen in the aviation community is, if someone needs something, there's a resource that you need, a question, a thought or a different way of potentially thinking about an issue, we share, we collaborate, we help each other, and it's such a great opportunity to be a part of that.
Yeah, I know that the AMA's website has a lot of free things, and when you're a teacher, you look for things to be able to have in the classroom that are free. It's the way it is. You just have to have some resources. So you do have a wonderful, wonderful website. I'm proud to be
thank you very much.
your newest member.
Well, we're excited to have you on board, Shelia. And, before I close things out, I do have one last question for you.
Yeah.
And this question is kind of your chance to look back over our conversation and think about anything you may have missed. But, the question is, what questions do you wish I'd asked? Where did I miss the boat? And what is it that you'd like to continue sharing?
Oh, geez, you did it all. I mean, I can't really. I was thinking about that because I kind of knew you would say that, but you asked so many good questions, and I don't know. I think that you hit it all. I think that I'd have to circle back to my dad, and when he was young, I said he was my hero. He was in an orphanage when he was a little guy, and he came out and he lived on a farm, and he was forced to quit school at 14 years old, and he ran away, and he I don't want to say he lied. He bluffed his way into the military at 14, and
wow.
That's where he got his education because he never wanted to stop learning, and he got an education, and he was self-taught because he became quite an exceptional legend in New England in aviation. And I think that because of that experience, yeah, there he is. But because of that experience, he taught so many young people, and not just taught them, but he was so grateful for the people along the way. I guess what I'm saying, and he always paid it forward. Kyle, do you know what that means? Paying it forward.
Oh yeah, I try to live it every day.
Do you want to say what it is? What it is to
it's an idea of taking the resources, the wealth, the opportunities that have been passed along to us, and freely giving those forward to those who could use a hand, could use the inspiration, the help. Trying to aid others around you. It's what I tell my kids probably. As often as I can is to look for the opportunities to be good and to do good in the world that they find themselves in. And if we're doing that, we're doing the right things. At least that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. So my dad's name was Julie Goldman, and so I think I didn't mention that. But paying it forward is something that I wanted to say. The greatest thrill, you asked me what it was, what were some of the thrills that I had, and thank you for that, and my scariest experience. One of the greatest thrill that I have had throughout my career is to touch the lives of kids and then see them as adults, and they're actually doing things in aviation or aerospace as adults. And I look because I still think that I'm a kid and I don't know what I'm going to do next when I grow up. But there they are. They're on board now and they're working at FAA, or they're in the right seat or the left seat in the airlines. I've seen that now. I've seen some of the kids from our ACE camps as maintenance people for the airlines. I can't even begin to tell you. And so you've asked me all of it, but I think that for me, paying it forward, I always like to do that. And that experience of teaching my grandchildren, if somebody helps you, you help somebody else. It'd be a real good world if we all did that.
Definitely. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say that might be the most important thing that we could draw from this conversation, if anything else, but followed closely by the bacon comment with the peanut butter and jelly.
Butter and jelly.
Remember that, everybody.
Yeah.
Shelia, thank you so much for your time. It truly has been an honor to speak with you today.
It's been such a thrill. Thank you. A shout out to my grandchildren because I know they're going to be watching. And thank you. Yeah, thanks, Kyle. I really appreciate you even asking me. It's been an honor.
Well, of course. Well, stick around, of course. We've got more AMA Junior Camp coming. Tomorrow in the morning session, we'll be having some great lessons. You won't want to miss it. So if you haven't registered for AMA Junior Camp, if you know kids who haven't, that would love camp, registration is still open. You can go through there, amaflightschool.org/AMA-junior-camp. And you'll have access to register as a new student who wants to attend junior camp and also see these resources as well. And remember, if you missed this live, it's fine. It'll be on demand as well in the future. All of our conversations are already live and available after the fact, so you can join in. They're for everybody. The morning sessions, though, are reserved for the junior campers that first week, but next week it'll turn into an on-demand piece. So, if you are an AMA member or a club that's looking to have something to do this summer with kids, if you're a homeschooler or a parent that wants to keep your kids occupied this summer, if you're an educator right now and a teacher that would like to bring in some really fun STEM stuff with model aviation at its core, please sign up, register, and enjoy it. If you can't get enough AMA Junior Camp right now, you're just chomping at the bit for that next lesson to go live. Remember, we've got 2 years worth of camp in the reserves already, on demand, ready to go. Enjoy it, have fun. That's what it's there for. And so we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Kyle Thede is going to be leading a great session again in the morning, and we'll be talking to Rick Crossland tomorrow afternoon. So look forward to seeing you all then. If you have questions, of course, please reach out to AMA at education@modelaircraft.org. Excuse me. It's our honor and our pleasure to help you guys out with any questions you may have. And if you have questions for Shelia, of course, you can pass them on to me and I'll pass them off to her. We'll make sure we link you guys up.
Really?
All right. Well, in the meantime, we'll see you all later. And have a great day ahead.
Thank you.